Okay, this is going to be the first in a series of videos where we go over coordinated entry and HMIS. And so we're going to start off in coordinated entry. We're going to get a client and look for our client in the system. So we start off, as I said, in coordinated entry, not HMIS. And we're going to look up our client. And in this case, we're going to assume the client's name is test client. As you see, I already have a few different test clients in here, but let's assume that we don't find our client. So we're going to go to add and begin by adding our test client into the system. And I'm going to give my test client the test client 1.1 just so I know that that's my client when I'm searching them later on. And in this case, let's assume I do have the full name reported. I'm going to give them just a generic birthday. If I have the full birthday date of birth reported, click that. But if you only get an approximate or the client prefers not to answer, click that. But do your best to get the correct information because we get a lot of flags. We'll get flags if we get a lot of client prefers not to answers. So do the best you can to get the full date of birth and the full social security number. In this case, I'll say client prefers not to answer. Then I'm going to fill out the gender, and we can give them more than one gender. Race and ethnicity, we can do the same there and give them more than one. As you noticed, I don't know if you saw that, but this button turned blue. That means all of the red asterisks have been filled out. So if you notice that you can't click the save button or the update button, that's because you still need to go up and find which red asterisk field you didn't fill out correctly. And then we'll do the sex on birth certificate, sexual orientation, and there's no date of death. The card ID will pop up in just a moment. 33008, that's the card ID. And as we go along, I'm going to point out the difference. I'm going to point out the card ID and the intake ID. The card ID is a 5-digit number that sticks with the client throughout all of their stay in HMIS and Bell Data and coordinated entry. The intake number is a number that changes each time a client gets put into a different project. So that might not make sense right now. And as a matter of fact, let's look at that. Let's look at what that looks like on the homepage. So the card ID or the client ID, it might have different names, is the client's number that sticks with them. The intake ID, which they don't have yet because they haven't been put into a project, is something that changes for each project that they're in. So typing that 33008 in there, we go back to the client demographic screen. All right, we can move to the client address screen. And this is, for the most part, right now, it's very self-explanatory. And I'll just put ADCA's address in there since it's already filled out. Do your best to get an email address if the mailing address is different. Comments. In our business, we obviously have a lot of homeless people who might not have an address. So if they're staying next to a building, try to get the building's address and then make the comments there that, hey, this is where we found them, or this is where the person stayed that night. Okay, so we have the client address filled out. And if you realize you need to change something, just go to edit and change it. But don't ever delete it. If you have the delete field right there, don't delete an address. If you need to change something and you can't change it, notify me and I'll make the change for you. If you realize you just put the completely wrong address in there, not a problem. Go to add, or if their address changes, go to add and then add the new address in there. And now they have two addresses. This blue circle right here, you'll see this throughout Bell Data, but this will alternate. In this case, it alternates between the two addresses. All right, now we're going to to look at two more screens. We're going to look at the project history, which right now is blank. And that's because they haven't been put into a project. And then we're going to look at the linked household members. We want to link a household member to this client because later on we're going to enter them into the project together. But I like to point out that just linking them together doesn't put them in the project together. It just links them. And that might not make a whole lot of sense right now. And hopefully it does a little bit later. So if we need to link somebody, we press the add button and we look for them like we did before. And in this case, I want to pick client CH for child, just to make it easy. And actually, I don't want to do that client. I want to do this client right here. All right, so we have this client, test client, suffix. They're born in 2018, so it makes sense that it's a child. And we only need to fill out one red asterisk here, and that's the relationship to the head of household. And we're going to put that it's the son. We're going to press the update button, and you see now in the linked household member screen that there is the son. Okay, we're going to end that video right there. And in the next video, we're going to enter the client into a project.